I had heard years ago of a young girl who had been kidnapped and sexually abused, and when the abuser was finished with her, he took her to a construction site, to a latrine, and he threw her into the latrine, where she spent the night, up to her neck, shivering in human waste as he drove away to escape. But in the morning, construction workers came, and they looked in the latrine, and they saw this little girl scared to death, and they got the fire department to come in, and they lowered a man there to rescue her. And she had been so hurt, she didn't know who to trust. She was petrified, understandably, of men, and so she started to take the human waste, throwing it up at them, saying, "Leave me alone, just don't touch me." She had been so hurt, didn't know who to trust, and wanted to live in sewage. And I think so often when a young woman has suffered the wound of sexual abuse, she tries to think, look, we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to deal with it. I'm just going to heal on my own. I'm strong. I'm going to be okay. Let it be. But what happens is that wound doesn't get healed truly. Life just goes on, but it stays there. You could imagine if I were driving home tonight and gotten a car accident, and I broke some ribs and busted up my knee and got a concussion, and the ambulance comes, and I say to them, look, I don't want to go to the hospital. The doctors there are just going to blame me for driving too fast. I shouldn't have put myself in that situation in the first place. It's all my fault. And so I'm going to deal with this on my own. I'm going to walk it off. I'll just put some dirt on it and I'll be okay. You know, and I'll probably survive. I'm probably going to be okay, but the limp is going to be there. And the wounds, the scars aren't going to heal quite right. And so similarly, when a woman who's suffered through sexual abuse does not receive the healing that she truly deserves, but instead blames herself for what happens to her, what happens is she'll enter into these relationships almost with a limp. And she wonders, I just can't trust guys. I don't feel safe around guys. And things may begin to happen in her life, whether drinking or cutting or smoking or just a series of dead-end relationships. And others may say, look at those problems she has. But really, these things that are sprouting up from the wound are not the problems. These are just the symptoms of what's been shoved under the rug that isn't getting healed. And so my plea to you is that if you've suffered any form of sexual abuse in your life, dedicate yourself to your healing process. Find a counselor you really connect with and pour out your heart so that it can be healed, so that you can both give and receive the type of love that you know that you long for. And please, I beg you to believe that you're not worthless because this happened to you, and you're not worth any less because it happened to you. In fact, you may have heard the analogy that, if I've got $20 here, I could say, do you want this? And you'd say, well, yeah, sure, I'll take $20. Okay, well, now do you really want this? Well, yeah, it's still $20. Okay, well, what if I sneeze on it? I throw it on the floor, I jump on it. Do you want it? You'll say, well, yeah, with a little disinfectant, I'll take your money. Sure, it's still $20. And so just as this bill retains its value, no matter really what you put it through, likewise the human person. Likewise your value is not lost, and you deserve love. Could you imagine if my wife suffered what perhaps you've suffered? Do you think I'd love her any less? If anything, I'd almost want to love her more to make up for what it is that she suffered. And so please understand that you are not disqualified from receiving the love that you yearn for. But in order to receive that love, you have to open yourself up. And so often that's hard to do after abuse. My wife and I wrote this book called How to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul. And in it, I quote a woman, Mother Angelica, and she says, the worst harm you do to yourself is if you cease to love, because you might be hurt or you have been hurt. You shrivel up like an old prune. Don't do that. Be willing to be hurt. The pain of trying to keep yourself from being vulnerable is much greater than the pain of loving and losing. Remember that. And so right now, instead of being afraid of, well, how do I even get into a healthy relationship? Don't worry about that right now. Just take some time for you to be loved by God as you are, and He'll do the rest. And in time, He'll heal those wounds. And then you'll hear His words that He spoke to you thousands of years ago ring true. His promise, behold, I make all things new, and that includes you. God bless you.